and a career, a path, not just a job, but like a career, especially for women. And so I think that these people in college are coming out with construction management degrees, and it's more of a exciting career path now. If I had known back in the day when I was a communications major at Villanova, and my parents were like, "We're paying all this money," and I would have definitely gone into construction and management. I mean, it is such a cool career path. But
it's like, well, sometimes there's different circumstances, and I really think that kicked off with COVID.
Huge.
Plus, like the money shuffling around has been interesting, and then on top of it, a lot of GCs are moving here. And developers, and I think those guys are coming in with more money, honestly. Like, we work with some great GCs that just can't compete with some of the base salaries that these other guys are pulling in. Yeah. So it's a lot of things. It's complicated.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Construction MF'ers. I'm excited today to talk to you guys about labor and construction, recruiting, retention, all the other hot topics. And today I have two great experts with me from NextPath Career Partners, recruiting firm. I'm excited to tell you all about these things, but I'm going to share the experiences with them and talk to you today. Hi guys.
Hi.
Perfect.
How are you?
First, I want to introduce Kelli McDonaugh.
Hey, Kelli McDonaugh. I'm a native of Tampa, Florida. I've been with NextPath about 5 years now. Was living out west, saw the boom that was happening in Tampa, and I just had to get back and be a part of it, essentially. So
cool story about, I noticed from your background too, which we'll talk about, but I want to introduce Lauren as well.
Hi,
Lauren
I'm Lauren Bonanno, native New Yorker actually. Been down here in Tampa for about 2 years now. Joined NextPath about 1.5 years ago, and I'm just super pumped. I'm a big nerd. I love the construction industry, especially since I've started. I've seen Tampa light up, grow, the whole thing. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Fun fact about Lauren is she's one of the happiest people in Tampa, coming from New York in the last
Yeah, exactly. I try to close the door behind me, but they just keep coming. Yeah. But yeah, no, I am one of the happiest. You're right.
So I moved from New York in 2003. Well, the first time in 97 after being there my entire life. Upstate New York. I grew up in Albany, just outside Albany. But then went to college in Rochester, moved down in 97 to Orlando. Worked for 5 or 6 years, and then said, I got to get out of here. I can't believe I'm in Orlando. And I moved to New York City. And then, right after 9/11, and then we came back down, like, very, very end of 03, January of 04, right when the Lightning were winning their first. So it was awesome. Like, we moved right into that.
Right, that's good.
And it was cool. And then I was like, quickly realized I'm never coming out of here. And so even the boom and the down cycle and everything else, I don't know what it would take to get me out of Tampa. I don't think it's a possibility, actually.
No.
It's so funny. I say this to Lauren all the time. Like, I get pretty salty about the moving, the New Yorkers, even with the growth. But I have no room to talk because my dad moved here from New York when he was 18 and went to UT. So exactly. I'm with you guys.
Yeah,
there's a lot of positives and negatives. But you know what? I think on the West Coast, we get a lot more Midwesterners moving versus the East Coast is heavy New York, New Jersey, East Coast. And everyone tells me that's because you got I-95 and I-75, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But I think the more friends I have from here that come down, they're like, wow, I didn't know the West Coast was so cool. Like, so great. Yeah.
The only reason I knew is because my brother was here first, and I came down when you guys had the Super Bowl. COVID was still, New York was shut down. I came down, I'm like, wow, the world's still open, and like, this is happening. And I was like, I'm moving here, done.
It's two different cities at that point.
Completely.
And New York, I hope New York's back, because I love New York. I hope it's back to somewhere else. Some people tell me that, but I don't think it's normal like it was in 2002.
I was just there last week, and it was going off. It was a lot of fun.
Was it good?
Yeah,
okay, good. Well,
it was
great.
Crazy, actually, all the little downtown markets, and there were a lot of people there. It was good.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming in and talking about this. So the two things, and we all met on the beforehand, but we also met live at the panel we did in downtown Tampa, talking about basically retention, labor. I went to an event after that in Houston. The whole thing was about bringing talent into construction, keeping talent in construction. And instead of like having all these companies fight for the talent back and forth and try to steal this scarcity, how do you just create more of an abundance of talent? And so I thought it was I'm glad we scheduled it, because I thought it was awesome to hear from you guys who are trying to recruit for these positions, the talent that's already existing in the construction industry. But also, you have a lot of insight into why or why not people are either leaving construction, which certainly give perspective on bringing people into it. And then you know the different age gaps. So maybe you could give us just a little brief synopsis of what you all think from your experience of why is there a labor and construction problem?
That's a good question. I mean, we get asked that all the time, really. I think that there's two different schools of thought, just one aspect of it. Part of that is you've got clients of ours that are open-minded to who they hire, and that they'll start, training, and they'll support, and they'll give them professional development and things like that, and kind of green peas, as we call them, and let them develop in their liking. And then you've got people who want experienced people and very specific and more pigeonholed into, we need someone with ground-up experience who's built $80 million projects or bigger and only have done this and this. So two different schools of thought. So I think, we want to build on that. Cal, what you see?
I think that it's also specifically to Tampa, this is the craziest market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably Texas too, but you're fighting for the same exact people. And I think you're right about being open-minded. Mm-hmm. Some firms just aren't, and some are. And those are the ones that are getting talent. Maybe, back in the day, you could have someone that's been at the same job for 15 years. And I think sometimes GCs don't want to hear this, but COVID did change things. Mm-hmm. It changed, it changed finances for GCs and developers, and money was moving around. I talked to a lot of people that were like, hey, they wanted me to go to Tennessee and do a build because they want a project there, but my kids are in Tampa. Yeah. So we'll pass a resume along, and someone will say they're too hoppy. It's well, sometimes there's different circumstances, and I really think that kicked off with COVID.
Huge.
Plus, the money shuffling around has been interesting. And then on top of it, a lot of GCs are moving here, and developers. Mm-hmm. And I think those guys are coming in with more money, honestly. We work with some great GCs that just can't compete with some of the base salaries that these other guys are pulling in. Yeah. So it's a lot of things. It's complicated.
So one pointed question I think I was really curious is, if you're talking to a great candidate, someone that's multiple companies want to hire, so they're in the driver's seat, what is the thing, if there is a thing, what's the one thing where it's I'm going to take that offer instead?
I was going to say the biggest thing that I've run into lately, and the carrot that a lot of these GCs can dangle, is employee owned. So if they have an ESOP program and shared profits and offer shares, that's been a big thing. It's been the decision maker for a lot of the candidates I have. Also, too, you've got two different types of candidates. You've got the ones that are money hungry, whoever's going to give them the biggest base, even if they won't say it up front. That's a thing. Or you've got the young, hungry, or just career-oriented person who is what? I want to be trained, I want support, I want culture, I want a good work-life balance, I want to be able to go to work and enjoy what I do. So I think depending on who that person is, no matter what they tell you up front, that's where the whole relationship building comes into play, right? And really getting to know what the drivers are for your candidates, that's what is going to determine where they end up.
I'm going to pull that back around though, because you mentioned, and you were talking about age gaps, but the younger ones looking for that growth, want to be with a good company. I a lot of times think that comes after someone's been in it for 15 to 20 years and they're like, I've been through the drive, this is not fun, I don't feel good, I want to be with someone that has a great reputation, but I don't necessarily have to kill myself to enjoy my life.
Right.
And so they go back too.
Do candidates typically think that there is a great culture in a construction company exists?
Yes.
They want it, but do they think it exists?
Yeah. I get so excited about this word because I feel like since we started this construction vertical at NextPath, I've had the pleasure of working with some really, really great GCs that truly pride themselves and they're well known for their culture. Their tenure is superb. I mean, I'm talking 10 to 13 years average for people sticking around. And part of that is what they do in behind the scenes. So one company in particular makes all their executives go through their internship program. They make sure that the guys up top aren't too good to pick up a broom or interview an assistant super, or everybody is all hands on deck. So they've got this humble kind of approach to things. And people know it, right? That's why they want to work for that GC. But then you've got the mid-sized shops that are also that sort of like warm and fuzzy feeling where you're not a number. I hear that all the time. I don't want to be a number. And those are the types of places where, they do those, it's kind of like NextPath, where they have that family feel. People enjoy going to the office. They want to be part of the events that they do and things like that. And they're prideful about all the work that they've done around town. So,
and I would say those ones that have the better reputations in the culture, those are the ones that can afford to be the pickiest about their candidates. Like, those are the ones that are like, okay, guys, we definitely can't show someone that has had... A lot of them, they'll ask for, no more than 3 jobs in 10 years. And even that's pushing it sometimes. But those are the clients that have the great reputations, that treat their employees really well and make sure everyone's heard, that get the really good candidates, honestly.
Yeah.
And they, do they typically offer the most money, those same companies?
No.
Definitely. Well,
Not in base salary. Not in base salary. Sometimes other perks, but yeah.
It was cool because I got to watch you both shake your head no at the same time.
I wish I could say that,
no,
but like sometimes, I mean, we have people all the time that are like, I will take a pay cut to go to that company because they've got good people. Like, I can go on their LinkedIn and see these, they've got a lot of great pedigree.
Yeah.
What I love about that is I thought that's what you'd say. I feel the same way because we don't recruit here, but we do know and talk to a lot of people and what they're trying to do, and we can feel and see the differences. But I've noticed that the same companies that focus on performance, not what price they're gonna try to get at, I got to bid low or I got to be the lowest. They're just like, this is what I'm gonna do. And this is how I'm going to do it the best I can to deliver the best product service that I can for my client. Whatever we're building, horizontal, vertical construction, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Those are the same companies that also have the best culture. They're not thinking about price in any aspect of it because they're just thinking about value.
Yep.
And if you do that, I think you do get the best jobs, you get the best margin, you end up getting the best people, you have the best talent. And I think it's important for people to say or know, like from folks that are in a third party setting, like that really does matter, because otherwise you get folks that are just bitter and angry and there's price. And when you go for the best price, because that's what people need to do now, like you hear people say, oh, that's what I got to do, I pay a lot.
Yep.
It doesn't mean pay unfairly or pay a little. It just means pay what you can and over deliver on what you're bringing, and you'll get the best folks.
Absolutely. I think it's a value-add relationships first approach to things, whether that be client side, candidate side, day-to-day, that if you have that mindset, then at the end of the day, everything else kind of falls into place. So,
and also, correct me if I'm wrong, like you probably know this just from doing the funding, but the GCs or the developers you enjoy working with the most, like, they have the best reputation. And to me, and this is like with staffing too, I mean, like, we're not the cheapest, but you get what you pay for. And the same thing goes with your candidates, unless you have something to offset that. Like Lauren said, like some kind of a bonus program, or we discussed this before coming in, outside of culture, honestly, a huge piece of that is growth. Where else can you go, especially for younger talent?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into that, but...
Yeah, letting them tap into what they're good at and their strengths, no matter where you are. If you're a super and you want to switch over to the PM track, giving them that option to be able to sort of like grow into the space that they're going to do the best in, that opportunity it's priceless versus, I'm going to pay you over market and you're going to be miserable, or I can't staff my projects and you're going to work like a crazy person, and hate your job, that kind of thing.
We have a saying around here that we talk a lot about where we're going to be 5 years, 10 years, and really spreading the vision. And I think everyone says, oh, what's the vision? Of course I tell the vision. But the reality is you have to really lay that out. And it's not so people see where they're going. It's so that they can see where their individual goals and dreams actually can fit inside of that. I heard a mentor of mine, his name is Ed Milet, explains it like you need to have your vision big enough if you're really going to run a business of any kind, so that your team and your employees that are working with you can see where their goals and dreams are underneath. They may not have the same ones, but they need to know that those next, second, third steps is bigger there. So if you just stay stagnant or comfortable, not everybody wants to be comfortable, and you're going to lose people. You're going to have people coming in and out.
Yeah, I think that's shared vision. I think in that, right, for everybody from the bottom up or top down, if that vision also has to be shared by everybody, right? So that's transparency. It's minimizing bureaucracy within the in politics within the company, so that people feel valued no matter what their job is, and they know if I work hard, I do a good job, I deliver, I show up, and I'm a good person, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to be the next executive, right? The interns that are at one of my clients in particular, right? They know, oh, so and so, the SVP here, he actually came from, he was a laborer, right? He didn't get a construction management degree, but I can also be an SVP one day, right? Just if I work hard and do my best, that kind of
And time.
Yeah.
And I would say, because we don't just do construction and real estate, but we do all facets of a company. So we do HR, marketing, sales, we do IT. But that piece is important to every company that we work with. And we're able to sell a company better if we're like, hey, like you have these places you can go versus like, sure, you might get that salary, but like that's where you're staying.
Yeah.
It's why if we're going in, I mean, not that we're going into finance and accounting, but it's why the big four have such great retention is because it's like, I have these levels. Yeah.
You can see where you're going. There's a path.
Yeah.
I don't think they do a great job of explaining their vision, but because they're that size,
right, exactly.
someone can inherently see the path.
right. They know someone who.
But it's the same effect when you're a smaller business of any kind. You're not a big five accounting firm. That's what you have to explain, and I think a lot of times business owners believe that their team won't see it or they won't believe it, but they actually don't need to believe. This is, in my opinion, they don't need to believe it. They just need to believe you believe it. And if you believe it, they're like, well, I'm going to latch on and roll with somebody. I might as well roll with a squad that believes in themselves. And they'll grab those beliefs along the way. And that key piece is what really drives someone to say, you know what, I know I'm in the right spot. My gut's telling me that. And then they learn and acquire more skills and knowledge, and then they move along. And that, talking about that in construction, I just don't think really happens. So you see it in other businesses, other industries. I was in the med device industry. You see it more often there too, but I think construction it's just kind of been a certain way, and it's got to be like broken up a little bit. Not broken up like separated. I just mean you got to shake it up a little bit so that people can start to like adopt some of these other philosophies.
Yeah. I think. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say you're right. Like the transparency around that, and I think that also lends itself to a candidate going to a company and not seeing that growth, and it's not talked about, right? So maybe that's the reason they leave in the first place. That's why you're saying Hoppy. So a great company that does do that, that's like, these are the things that you're going to be able to do. That candidate might have gotten stuck in a company that they thought they could, or they didn't even know that really existed, and then it's like, oh crap, like I'm in the wrong spot.
Right.
Yeah. I think too, it just comes down to good leadership, right? Like what you were just saying struck a chord, because before I started as a recruiter, then I became a teacher for 10 years in New York City schools, and now, full circle back in the recruiting seat. But in school as a teacher, it's the same thing, leadership, right? If you have leadership that's enthusiastic, excited, knows what they're talking about, but also leans on their team and their people more, and kind of spreads that enthusiasm and vision, and sort of lets people be part of that vision and that mission and movement forward, and it trickles down, and then everybody has that little sparkle in their eye and it wants to be part of it, and it becomes like this like club that you want to be a part of, right? Where, I want to work at this school because they all love what they do, and they they get to do this and this, and so I think just no matter what industry you're in, education, finance, construction, it's the excitement, enthusiasm, and the knowledge of being a leader and how that affects the people that work for you and making them part of the story.
So if someone's listening to us talk right now, like, okay, you guys made some great points, awesome, cool. What are the two things, like if you could just say, I wish folks that were trying to hire great talent would do these two things that they don't typically do, or these are the two that they really should just lean into heavy, which two would you say they would be?
For me, specifically to construction, is communication. Communicating and like having a defined process. Because the candidates that know their worth have a really hard time, and correct me if I'm wrong, like in a process that does not have a process, a recruiting process, right? The timeline, like you got to move fast. If you're looking for the right person, like they're hot, they're going to be off the market, so let's go. Let us know what's going on so we can at least share with them, hey, If it's a no update, that's fine. But at least they know I'm hearing it from you. For me, that's a big one.
Yeah. I would say, you mean you're talking from the client side, right? What they need to know. I think also a big part that's not talked about often is staffing your projects properly, right? So saying what you like, this is our project and it's going to be a lot of work. We're going to work nights and weekends, and letting people know that up front so they know what they're getting themselves into. Or if you don't typically work nights and weekends, you say, this is our promise. You're going to be home at night by X time. And if we run into a problem, adjusting their sales so they fix that. I have one client who saw the problem and decided to bus their people from a centralized location so they didn't have to commute. And then they brought in lunch every day because there was nowhere to eat around there. So kind of addressing the problems that your staff is seeing or your people are seeing, and accommodating them so that they can have the best work-life balance, and you're staying true to your word that you had up front. So staffing appropriately, I think, is huge.
And think about it from their side versus others. Like we had a great example at that conference I was telling you about, where there was no parking at this job site, so they were busing in. People had to be bussed in, no problem. It happens all the time. You got hundreds of people working on a job site. It's in the city. Nobody's going to park next to the site. Okay, cool. But what people didn't realize is after their 8-hour day, they were having to wait 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes to get the bus to take them to their car. And that was annoying. And it would just leave, every day people would leave pissed. Not because they just worked hard for 8 hours, but because they had to wait 30 minutes to go get in their car.
Yeah.
So they just simple adjust, but you don't know that if you're not asking. And that's not something people necessarily raise their hand for.
Right.
But if you realize they make awareness, and all of a sudden, so they added 3 times the amount of buses at that hour to swing everybody back home real quick, and everyone was so much happier. I mean, that cost nothing and got them 10x the value.
Yeah, of course. Have your finger on the pulse of what your people are feeling, thinking, their struggles, the things that are going well, and just like you said, communication.
Transparency.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
So you guys hit a chord. Something I learned from another mentor of mine in the med device industry when I started to try to hire and recruit and do interviews. And you guys, do you have a medical device job, sales job,
My
vertical?
mom did it. Oh no, we don't do that.
That was my first experience with recruiting in any kind. And I've an open position in Birmingham or Alabama, and I'd fly into Birmingham and have 15 interviews set up, and it was just kind of the way it was. But I realized in my young manager career, I'm like, I got this great med device job. You tell me why you're great for this job, right? And that was awesome. Great, okay, cool. And the people that would do that, they were never the best candidate.
Right.
You know why? Because the best candidate is interviewing you. And so my boss eventually told me one day when he came in, after I had gone through probably 3 different areas of trying to find people, he's like, dude, do you do this all the time? I'm like, do what? He's like, what you just did for the interview? I was like, yes, my normal process. I got these questions. I'm trying to figure this out. And he's like, bro, you're trying to find the best person. The best person, when they sit in front of you, doesn't want to go through that. They're telling you, he's out. I'm just going to roll. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear. You never hear from him again. I'm like, okay, cool. So, I changed the entire process at that point of just conversation. Ask me all the questions you don't want to know, or you really want to know. You can't tell me everything I need to know. If I don't tell you what you're getting paid, what's your life look like, what's your bonus look like, you just ask me all those questions so that you can know, and then we'll figure out if we like each other. And then the second interview, we can do all the interview questions.
That's nice.
And people were scared of her. Is he messing with me? I'm like, no, I'm dead serious, man. I wouldn't take any job.
This is what you're getting into.
Yeah. I couldn't answer. You can't answer the questions I really need to know, honestly, if you don't have these basic answers.
And it's funny, that's definitely something we have to coach on too. If we always do a debrief after we have a candidate, have an interview. But I hear it all the time. It's I just didn't get an opportunity to ask any questions. And it's I have a lot of questions, and I can't always answer them as a recruiter, Right. We're an agency. But giving them the time to really find out what they need too. It's a great point.
Yeah, because I thought it was, and then I realized, okay, you know what? I'm recruiting the best talent. I need to make this a recruiting process, not a interview process.
Oh, it's like dating. I mean, you got to have a open dialogue. You need to get to know each other. I mean, I do both sides. I do recruiting and account management. So for me, it's in my best interest to really understand the candidate and really understand the client. So I'm not just asking deeper questions, second level, third level questions, but listening more, right? And I'm a talker, so it's hard, so I have to shut up sometimes, but and just let them talk, right? Whether it be the candidate or the client. I know Gina is always just say less, you know. And so when I do that, they say things that are really important, and then you actually get to the deeper level stuff that they're actually looking for. So that helps save me time, them time, and everybody a lot of hoopla.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Turning it on its head. The easiest word I would say is just being curious, because people want to tell you.
Yeah.
So if you're interviewing someone, be curious about them.
Yeah.
And let them give you some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Whether that be a good thing or a bad thing for them, just let them dig that hole.
Yeah. But honestly, that is the best thing you can do. Let someone. On the other side, you got to ask those questions. There's a way to ask them. There's a way not to ask them. But if we're really focused on the people that are watching us could be both sides, but candidly, they're probably the business owner watching this. And the business owner needs to understand, most importantly, that this is an interview process, yes, but it's really a recruiting process. If you really want the best talent, you're recruiting, you're not interviewing. And so that that mindset will also bring the best talent. The best talent also knows when they're sitting there, there's questions to ask, and there's questions not to ask, and there's ways to ask them. But if you're sitting there like, I'm going to say, ask me anything you want, but if they ask me what the salary is, they're out. Okay, well, you're running a bad process.
Right.
I
Like, it's
need
disingenuous.
to live.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of important.
Just no.
Right.
That's interesting.
But also too, so the best process I've seen, in terms of interviewing process, has always been the boss man, whomever it is that really makes they do the first interview. So get that out of the way and just chat and get this a very informal conversation. And if you pass that little test per se, then they pass it on to their team and let them decide. So it's the team that they're going to be working with on the day-to-day. That's whether that be informal or formal, sit down, or they go out together to the site or whatever it may be. That way you see who you're working with. You get a feel for what the day-to-day is going to look like. The team gets to actually know you, right? Because I feel like if you're on site especially, you're going to be a little bit more yourself. It's not going to be so structured. But I like that the best. That's what I've gotten the best results from, is just informal convo with the head guy, and then they pass it to the team and let them decide, because that's who you're going to be working with regularly.
It's funny you say that. We do that here at Mobilization Funding. We meet first, like either if it's a position that is reporting to me or whoever it's reporting to meets first. If they like somebody, we typically just say, you know what, come in for the day. Half the day, whole day, spend as much time as you want. And we usually make it on a Tuesday or one of our busier meeting days, so they can see a loan committee, they can see service, they can see the loan, they can meet everybody, spend 30, 40 minutes on them, because you're never going to know until you know. And the other thing it does is not only does it let our team get a feel for them, but they also feel the culture. And they either are going to lean into that or be out. And so culture's very obvious, very present. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. There's really no in between. That's kind of cool culture.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not when someone says, what kind of culture do you like? I don't know.
Good
I'll
one.
let you know when I see it. And I'll let you know if I'll stay as long as I like it. You don't
It's
know.
great here.
So you got to let somebody feel it more than talk about it.
True.
Because especially because a lot of people I don't think it's the norm. I don't think there's
Not many people do that, for sure. That's nice.
And I don't think there's a norm culture. I know what normal culture feels like.
Right.
They just know what a job feels like.
Right.
Well, speaking of that, I think a good way to identify, and we always try and get this out of our clients, is when we're doing an intake for a job, we'll call it sizzle, but what's something that sets you guys apart? And maybe aside from the money, right? So it would be, what is a culture like? What do you do for your employees? You give them parties. You take them on one-on-ones. What is it? And that's hard to do with a really big organization.
Yeah.
But I don't know, little things like that.
Yeah.
I love that you bring them in and have them
Yeah,
shadow.
Great.
And there's been plenty of people we've brought in and we've liked, but when they come through here, they're a little different. Or you can tell. I mean, I can tell within an hour. I can see the company. Everybody's kind of buzzing, or everyone's
I
got an ear.
When's that guy gonna be on?
It's the button on the table.
It's sad, but it's you can feel it. All I gotta do is walk
yeah.
this hallway once, and I'm this ain't going good.
That's it.
Definitely.
But if it's somebody that's pouring into, you can sort of see everybody starts kind of huddling around, and I'm all right, well, this must be good.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure out what's going on over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's NextPath. I don't know. They've got some special sauce that they use to.
It's pretty particular.
Yeah.
I don't even know how else to describe besides we read energy, which I can't say that to, I'm just reading their energy. That's how I know they're good.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to read it. You feel it.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's true.
You can feel it. You just feel it. So the one other question I have for you guys was on turnover. Like, so a lot of turnover issues, not company to company, but like I'm turning over out of construction. Like, do you guys get that a lot? Like, I'm leaving this industry. Do you have anything else, any other industry? I knew you had these other verticals, but like, is there anything else for me to do?
You mean not in construction?
Yeah, like a construction person is like, you know what, I'm done with construction.
I like don't ever get that, to be honest with you.
I've had more people do the opposite. I mean, recently I've spoken to a ton. I mean, I have a lot of, like, I had this golf pro guy who now is in residential, but he wants to hop over to commercial. I find that the biggest hops are from out of industry, at least into construction. And a lot of residential bopping over to commercial.
See, that's great. So let's talk about that then. Why is that? Because that's the key. Is like, what is that person seeing, hearing, reading, feeling that's drawing them into construction? Because that's what's really needed for the construction industry. I mean, it's one of the largest markets that we have industry-wise, and we have a talent and attraction talent issue. We need more people coming into construction.
I've actually read a couple instances. It was like polls. They were life satisfaction polls, and construction's one of the highest because it's project based, and you're moving around. So it's like you get to see completed work, be face to face. Versus, I mean, for me, I work behind a computer a lot of the times. Like, I love getting to do this, but it's not all the time. Yeah. And some people just physically cannot do that, sit behind a computer. It's hard.
It's hard.
But
I think, too, though, we live in a bubble here in Tampa and in Florida in general, and I think it's booming so much here and growing. I mean, since I've been here, the skyline's changed dramatically, and I literally have a huge development building behind my building right now. I mean, every day you see these, beautiful buildings being built and all these plans. And so I think obviously the buzz, the excitement around here is contagious. And I think that they're doing a better job nowadays of promoting it as a career and a career, a path, not just a job, but like a career, especially for women. And so I think that these people in college are coming out with construction management degrees, and it's more of a exciting career path now. If I had known back in the day when I was a communications major at Villanova, and my parents were like, "We're paying all this money," and I would have definitely gone into construction and management. I mean, it is such a cool career path, but I didn't know anything about it. So I think they're putting more emphasis on that in college, especially in Florida, and I think that's why people are kind of jumping on board. But
that'd be a great question to have your listeners write in on.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Why do you do this unless your dad did it or something, right?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times what happens is, have you guys ever read the book called The E-Myth Revisited? The Entrepreneurial Myth? It's a great book. Gerber is his last name. I think I'm drawing a blank on the author, but amazing book. But anyway, what it talks about is there's three main traits to a business owner, or anyone really. You have the technician, and so the story talks about Sarah the baker, and Sarah was an amazing baker. She made these muffins. They were amazing. Someone said, "These muffins are so good, you should create a business." So she creates this business one day, and she's making her muffins. She's creating the business, and that's the technical side. And she obviously had a little bit of entrepreneur in her because she wanted to get into the business. Well, all of a sudden she realizes that now she has this business, and there's a finance component, and that's the third component. So most people are two. You have a dominant trait. You're two of the three, but never all three. But you need all three to be key in business. And so the technician who loves to cook, loves to bake, loves to use a hammer, loves electrician, loves trades, eventually you become in a business, and then you also have the finance side. So where you enter from usually shows up where the gap is, which is why construction has issues sometimes with not everyone is like a finance expert, or they don't understand cash flows, because you're also running this business and also all the things about business. But if you enter as a technician, you really just got in this business because I wanted to bake my muffins, And so it talks about that and how you fill those gaps. The good thing about finance is you can hire finance, right? You can't hire a technician typically. That's the hardest part. But where I'm going with this long piece of the story is, when you're that entrepreneur and you don't have that third component and you're this business owner, all of a sudden it leaves this void. And you have to try to figure out what the void is and how do you fill it. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people enter construction as a technician. Because if you think about it, my dad was in construction, my mom was in construction. I started out as an electrician, a plumber, and I was working for this company, and then this company sucked or they went out of business. So I opened my own, you know,
Right.
and that's, you just jumped in. Next thing you know, they're like holding this business and they're like, this horse is, I thought it was bad, you know, just being in the field, but this horse, I'm over here running
Too
this
much.
place is a whole lot. Now I'm hiring people, I'm managing people, and all of a sudden you have all these things that are coming around about a business, and you're the farther and more the more successful your business is, the farther you are removed from the technician.
From the piece, yeah.
And it's a hard hurdle for construction a lot.
Interesting.
And that's a real thing for construction because so many people enter as a technician. This is my personal opinion, and this wasn't in the book, but I just think so many people enter as a technician, it makes a lot of sense to me that by the time you have this business owner, they're so far removed what they really love and passion is, and you're doing a lot of things that probably weren't your love and passion, you know, which is managing people, or love finance, you know.
Yeah.
But to your point, Lauren, I think construction is one of those industries where you can do anything you want at any level, no matter how you enter.
Yeah.
Whether you're communications, marketing, finance, business, operations, Six Sigma this, Six Sigma
matter,
that. You can enter in the construction industry and at any scale, small, medium, or large, and grow within that to any capacity. And that's one of the few industries you can really do that with. I think it's a really cool aspect of it. But the story people tell isn't that.
Right.
That's the attraction I think people need to make, is telling those stories. Like, really, like you said to yourself, I didn't know that. I would have went into
Right. Oh
construction.
my God. Yeah. And I think it was October was a construction career awareness month. I think October. I could be wrong, and I nerded out big time because I think it's so important. I volunteer for Think Big for Kids, which is, they help younger, underprivileged kids learn more about what's available to them, what's out there, not just a doctor, lawyer, whatever. It's, you have all these options available to you. And I think construction is one of those things where people think, oh, you're just picking up a hammer. Well, no, you can actually start, you can go to college, you can be a boss, you could start in the field. You've got all these different like entry points, and you can be whoever, you can go up as far as you want, you can stay wherever, that kind of thing. And I think that if you spread awareness and educate kids at a younger age about those things, you're going to have such great talent in the, in the next couple of years as they turn over, and it'll continue to be that kind of bridge that gap between the group that's leaving and kind of that old school group and that group that's coming in now, which is I think a huge part of the labor shortage as well. There was that gap in the middle where there wasn't that influx of people going into it.
I just think that the companies that are doing it have to really lean in and tell a better story.
Yeah,
Tell
go to
the story.
colleges.
Just be honest with the story. This is what we do. This is how we do it. You know,
right.
and people, a lot of construction companies also say, well, I'm not marketing. Like, I don't market or social media. I'm one of them. This business has been around 11 years. We've been on social media since 2020. That's it.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is when we got on social media and started telling a better story, the business changed
That's
dramatically.
it. Yeah.
So it's
It
like,
is about the story you tell. You're right.
and the last thing I wanted to ever do was get in a room with cameras and podcasts or social media or be any kind of like.
Are you saying you're
vulnerable
removed
whatsoever.
from why you originally started the business?
Are you?
Yeah, 100% removed from
Disconnect.
that. Totally
Yeah.
disconnected. Yeah. I mean, I loved business and I was in sales, so I liked communicating to people, but like the technical sides of our business and even the finance sides, those weren't the things I came from. A lot of people are like, you have a finance major? I'm like, no, I got marketing and sales. Like, that was it. Food, hotel, hospitality management.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, going back to social media, I think that's why so many people do start companies now. It's like, I see, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And it's like, oh, wow, there's so much behind that when I do get started, though.
Yeah.
You made a good point the other day about NextPath, right? About what we put on social media. We don't market ourselves as recruiters. We literally just show our culture. That's it. All the fun things.
This
we
is
do,
how you feel
The
when you
dogs
work
in the
here.
office. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the funny, silly stuff that happens. The celebrations we celebrate. They do a great job just celebrating one another. 1 year anniversary, birthdays. Just
Milestones.
stuff. And I think
Yeah, cool stuff.
the GCs that we work with that do that on social media, huge. Celebrate the projects they built. If you see this beautiful hotel built on the beach and all the work that went into it and all the celebrations they do along the way, I mean, who doesn't want to work for a company like that?
Fun, and not to single out, but who does a really good job of that with their people on the ground is Power Design.
Yeah.
They like really celebrate their guys that are building. And they do all kinds of things for them, which typically are for people that are in office, at least that I've seen.
Yeah.
Anyways, but
yeah, and they're a massive company, and, and as they've grown, they've bolted those things on.
It's important.
Yeah.
And for us, I mean, it's as simple as a cake. Like, hey, it's the
balloon.
It's the December birthday. It's like, oh, we got you cake. And and it's fun. I'm like, yeah, it's my birthday.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I got to have one.
So then when you do have to go back to your computer, it's like, you're like, all right, cool, I'm not here all day. I mean, I still got my work done. I'm going to knock it out, but that was fun. I had some fun.
Yeah,
bring your dog to the office. I mean, we can bring our dog. It's like a doggy daycare in Tampa, and I love it. You know, like, that's a huge, just shout out to all the companies out there. You should let your people bring your dogs, because
there's a lot of dog lovers.
Yeah, there are.
There's.
Yeah, and if you don't, you're not my people. I'm just saying, you know.
No doubt. If you're
like, we don't bring dogs in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. We definitely don't bring dogs in here. But that's not because I wouldn't want to. I don't care. I don't think we can allow them in the building. And we don't own the building, so we don't have dogs. But it would be cool. I did come in here one day on the weekend, and one of our guys had his dog in there. And I opened the door not thinking he was going to be in there. And I was just like normal coming in to hang out, get some stuff done. It was quiet. I keyed the door, opened it up, and all of a sudden this 95-pound like German Shepherd's running full speed at me, barking. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, scared the crap out of me.
That's great. I love it.
And then all he did was run around and lick me, but barked like he was going to kill me.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Besties.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I really appreciate the conversation. I want to know, is there anything else that I should be asking you guys or that we should be talking about before we wrap up?
For me, just my cliff notes are culture and growth are key. Fairly compensated and communicate with the people that are trying to shameless plug for recruiters, communicate with the people that are trying to get you the right people. Yeah.
It's in relationships, right? So making sure you're making a match between your client and the candidates in a way that's going to make them happy for the long term. It's not about the placement, it's about the relationship, and I think everything else will fall into place.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, I can tell you my own personal opinion. I can say that great candidates don't like to work with boring recruiters, and you guys definitely are not.
Cool. I appreciate it.
When I worked with recruiters trying to look at different med device jobs, I would always be like, I can't talk to this recruiter again. Like, I don't care if they have the best job. I just can't talk to them. So you guys are great in that aspect of it. On that note, if anybody wants to find you guys, help them find the right next best talent in the organization, how do they do that?
Their next path. You can find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We're NextPath Career Partners, or Lauren Bonanno, Kelli McDonaugh.
On LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn.
Yeah. Find me.
Or our website.
And you do have a podcast too, right?
Oh, yeah. Action stuff. Yeah. Live bold, boss up.
Yeah, we interview... Well, Ashley and Stephanie interview different business leaders and figures around Tampa and find out about their successes, how they made it work, and what they think of what's going on around here. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. You're gonna come on for sure.
All right, I'll come on. I'll be fun. I don't know what I can tell you about Tampa prior to 2003, but I'll do my best.
That's good. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming on. I think this is a great conversation. I think a lot of people here could grab some real nuggets from not only from this conversation, but in the conversations they're trying to have with their team, with their recruiting, finding talent, keeping talent. If you have to listen to this to find talent, I promise you take these same nuggets with the current people you already have in your organization is just as important.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to recruit.
Yeah.
This is the recruiter's perspective, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
Kind of biased, but it is our side of the line. Yeah. So thanks for having
I agree with you from the business owner side.
Yeah, and it's fun for you too, right? You want culture that you want to be a part of every day. So
it's true.
Let's go.
There's nothing worse than having the wrong people in the wrong place in the wrong seat. It's not fun for anybody.
No.
And you only need one in the wrong spot or wrong team, and it'll ruin it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's important. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our episode. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you did, please share the podcast, click subscribe, join our friends, follow us on LinkedIn, connect with us. And in the meantime, God bless you all, and I'll talk to you again soon.